West back at you guys with another live video. So in today's live, what I want to talk to you guys about is the importance of attracting owner operators into your business, because as you know, if you don't have any owner operators, you don't have any business, you don't have any cash flow coming into your business. And I know one of the main concerns, one of the main issues you will face as a new dispatcher is attracting owner operators, right? This is one of the hardest problems I had in my business. And throughout my mentorship, I have seen students struggle the most with attracting owner operators, right? So I'm want to put out another video for you guys today about attracting owner operators. But before we get in that video, I don't want you guys to forget, I still have a 25% off sale going on my website. So if you go to my website, antoinewest.biz, that 25% off sale is for all courses on my website. And it ends tonight at midnight. Tonight, July 6th at midnight. So if you guys are looking to enroll in any of my courses, make sure you go to my website before tonight at midnight to save 25% off on any course. But if you guys missed it earlier this week, I put out a live video and I talked about ways to make profit in a trucking business, right? So ever since I got into dispatching, owner operators have always been my top priority, right? I always want to solve problems for owner operators, right? So what I put out in the video earlier this week, I put out a live video, and from my experience of being in the trucking industry for about 5 years now, and all the problems we see going on with owner operators, with low rates, with high fuel prices, high insurance rates. This is the trucking industry, right? These are all the problems we have within the trucking industry. But from what I can see from observing the trucking industry these last couple of years, what I've thought about is that truck drivers, owner operators are only making revenue one way, one primary source of revenue, right? And so we have owner operators getting their authority, starting their own trucking business, but their business remains the same for years, right? You never see any business remain sustainable that stays the same for years over time, right? You always have to add additional services to your business to generate more income and more revenue. But I believe what's happening with owner operators, their expenses are going up, but they're not adding any additional revenue, right? So all the businesses you see around you, all the major corporations, the reason they're coming up with different services is to add more revenue to their company, right? Because their expenses are going up too, but they're coming up with additional services. But what I see from most owner operators, they're not thinking of ways to generate additional profit, right? What I see from owner operators is they're waiting on the rates to go up to a certain spot rate price for them to make more money, right? They're waiting for the FMCSA to enact a law, broker transparency. They want the brokers to say how much money they're making on each load, right? But the thing I think about business, I think waiting on any of that is just causing your business to fail, right? So as a business person, I think it's very important to always think of your own ideas to make more revenue. Even if you have an expense that increases that you can't control, how you control that expense is by making additional revenue, right? So in any business, there's always an unlimited amount of ways to make additional revenue. Same with the trucking business, same for owner operators. There's unlimited ways for owner operators to profit, not just dropping off loads, right? That's the primary way. So what happens in many businesses, they get into business with one primary form of making revenue, right? And then over time, after adding additional streams of revenue, you always want to add additional streams of revenue to your business, and that's what's going to strengthen up your business. But if you pay attention to the trucking industry, owner operators are only dependent on that one source of revenue. And honestly, I think the reason why is because that's all that's being talked about. Sometimes you don't realize different things until someone puts it to you in a different type of way, right? So I believe majority of owner operators never really heard about increasing their revenue by adding additional streams of income. Something I've been talking about lately is for dry van and reefer trailers, right? The advertisement on the side, the company logo isn't getting that trucking business, isn't getting that owner operator any additional revenue. No one sees that logo on a trailer and decides to call that trucking company and try to get them to haul a load for them. That's not how trucking works, right? So that logo on a trailer, on a dry van or reefer trailer, isn't doing any good, isn't making any money. So when I notice this, I'm like, well, let's make some money with this. So what I would recommend owner operators to do is to find businesses who would pay them to advertise their business on the side of their dry van or reefer trailer, right? This doesn't even have to be a business in the transportation industry. This just needs to be a business that could benefit. You know, business is about making win-win situations, right? So this is what owner operators need to know. And dispatchers too, we want to make win-win situations. So an owner operator could network with other businesses. And yes, you probably would have to get on Google and write down the names and numbers of these businesses. And every day, this is what I would be doing. I would be calling that list, hitting that list up every day, right? As an owner operator with a dry van or reeper trailer, right? And I would be looking for someone to pay me maybe $2,000 or $3,000 a month to advertise their business, but it would have to make sense, right? Their business being on the side of my trailer should grow their brand awareness, and people should be calling from seeing their business on the side of my trailer. It should get them more business, right? So it should make everyone happy, right? But let's check that out for a moment before we get into the topic of today's video. This is something I want you guys to know about too. I really believe owner operators, to fix the problems we have in the trucking industry that owner operators have, what they need to start thinking about is adding additional revenue to their trucking business. Also, dispatchers, for you to get more clients, don't only focus on rates, focus on owner operators want more revenue. You know, they're business owners, they want more revenue, bottom line, right? So if that means from rates or any additional ways that you can make them more revenue, right? So if I'm a dispatcher just coming into the game today, I'm not only focused on rates, I'm focused on, like I was when I started about 5 years ago, I focus on anything, any additional value, any additional streams of revenue I can add to the trucking company. Right now, probably just telling the owner operator that he or she could earn more revenue by adding additional streams. You know, as a dispatcher, that's adding additional revenue. I mean, that's adding value to owner operators, right? So let's just think about this. So what I do to really learn business, I look at other industries, right? So in any other industry, they come into the game, they come into the industry with one stream of revenue, and then they quickly add several other streams of revenue. But I don't see this going on in the trucking industry because owner operators are just thinking trucking. They're not thinking, let's make money any way possible, right? So even when you start your dispatch business, any business you start, don't limit your revenue on ideas that's already in the market, right? You want to make business from any way possible, make money from any way possible, right? So any way possible you can make revenue, you want to add to your company, right? So take, for example, a restaurant. A restaurant first opens up, makes money off of food and beverage sales. I'm just gonna name a few, but quickly after that, they add catering services, delivering services, selling merchandise, selling their mugs with their logo on there, right? T-shirts with their logo on there, cooking classes, hosting events, renting space. If they have extra space in the restaurant, they can rent them out for private events after hours, selling gift cards, offering subscription services, alcohol sales. So those are all the additional ways a restaurant can make money, right? So they have their primary stream of income. This is even a person, right? So when I think of business, I believe you can relate it to your personal life too, because just like as a person, we want to add additional streams of revenue to ourselves. If that means multiple different businesses doing over 6 figures a year, then that's what that is, right? But you want to add additional streams of revenue. Even someone in debt, right? Even from my experience of being in debt, right? Thinking about the debt won't do any good, right? That's just period. get where I'm coming from, guys. Thinking about, as an individual, thinking about your debt won't do any good, right? As a business owner, as an owner operator, thinking about your debt, thinking about what's taking money out of your pocket would never do you any good. The only thing that's going to do is give you more things for money to come out your pocket, right? So thinking about debt, thinking about fuel prices going up, thinking about low rates. If low rates aren't increasing your revenue, then that's not doing you any good. So as an individual or as a business, if you just sit around thinking about your debt, you're just wasting time, right? So the answer, the solution is profit, is revenue. Revenue is the solution, right? Any problem in your business with increased expenses, when increased expenses come, like fuel prices and trucking, you can't, as an owner operator, there's no way possible for you to control fuel prices. The only thing you can do is increase your revenue, and I wouldn't lock my attention, I wouldn't lock my thought down to only thinking about rates increasing, right? Because I can't control rates, right? I just want to generate the most revenue into my trucking business as possible, right? So owner operators, they're not doing like restaurants are doing, adding additional streams of income, revenue. Car dealerships do this too. Of course, they have car sales. That's primary source of income. Then they have financing and insurance, parts and services, vehicle trade-ins, leasing, fleet sales, after sales services, vendor rebates. So this is in any business. So for you guys just starting dispatching, if you really want to be successful in this business, I would rather just teach you business, right? So what I would start doing is thinking of other businesses like restaurants, and then writing down every way possible that you can see that they make money, right? But you're not going to see this with owner operators. Owner operators, it's only one way. If I'm a seasoned owner operator, another thing I'm going to be doing, I'm going to have a mentorship program where I'm calling numbers off the FMCSA website, and instead of offering dispatch, I'm offering mentorship. But get this too. As an owner operator, I'm going to start a dispatch service. I'm going to get with someone I know. If I need help because I'm already driving the truck, I'm going to get with someone I know and teach them the game. And then I'm going to start a dispatch service where I dispatch you, where my business partner dispatches you. And I'm a veteran owner operator, and I'm going to offer you mentorship, right? So this is what sets my dispatch service apart from the rest of the dispatch service is that we dispatch you and you get mentorship from a seasoned owner operator, right? So that's a additional stream of income I would add as an owner operator. I would also start a brokerage firm, right? So I'm going to think of anything. I'm going to think of the traditional ways, like trying to keep my truck in the highest paying lanes, things like that, all the regular trucking ways. And then I'm going to think of non-traditional ways, such as advertising someone else's business on the side of my trailer, right? So in any business, if you want to make more money, what you need to do is just sit down and make a list of every idea that you can think of to make more money, and then start executing on some of those ideas, right? You just don't sit and think about what's taking money out your pocket, right? Even as a person wanting to start a business, right? Personal experience. When I wanted to start this business, I had to stop thinking about the point I was at then in my life. I had to focus on learning dispatching. Look, this is what you got to do. If you want to be successful in this business, and this is what this presentation is going to be over also, that I'm going to get into. The only thing you got to do if you want to really be successful in freight dispatching is just think of a plan that's higher than the majority of the market, right? That's any business. You want to think of a plan that's higher than the majority of the market, and then you want to get that plan out to as many people as possible, right? Because thinking of a plan to offer more value than what's higher than the market, than what's higher than everybody or the majority of people in the market, thinking of that plan to offer that value, that's what's going to attract as many owner operators or customers to you as possible, right? Because your customers are attracted to you by your business idea, right? And then by pushing that plan, by marketing that plan out to as many people as possible, that's the more people that's going to buy into your product or service, right? So with freight dispatching, over the years during my mentorship with students that I have, one of the main issues has been finding clients, right? You always see people ask, how do I find clients? But it's not about finding clients in any business. It's about attracting clients, right? So let's just say it was something someone wanted to sell you, right? This could be a car wash shampoo for your car, to wash your car, right? Just because it's a good product, just because, and they find you, maybe you're a person that sometimes you wash your car yourself and you buy shampoo for your car. That doesn't mean that you want to buy it just because somebody's selling it, right? So what I'm trying to say is, just because you have a freight dispatch business doesn't mean every owner operator or that any owner operators want to sign up with you. So it's not about finding owner operators. You can find owner operators plenty of places at the truck stop, right? But you want to attract owner operators. You want to think of a business idea that's higher than anything in the market and attract owner operators, attract customers to you, right? So by doing this, it's going to differentiate your business from anyone in the market, right? Anyone in the marketplace, right? So you need to think of a UVP. This is my two-step plan to be successful in freight dispatching or any business, right? A UVP is a unique value proposition, right? And this is just something that's unique about your business that separates your business from other businesses in the marketplace. So the whole entire reason why a lot of people can't find any clients in this business, or a lot of people never find any clients, is because you're copying the marketplace. You're doing the exact same thing that's in the marketplace, right? So if you think of something sometimes just a little bit different than what's already in the marketplace, that's going to capture somebody's eyes, right? So this is pretty much common sense type stuff. If your product or service, if you're offering it is exactly the same, if everything on your website is the same, if everyone else in the marketplace, then people are just going to skip over your business, right? So any business that I have, what I do is I immediately think of a plan that's bigger than anyone else in the marketplace, right? You have to do that. If you come into freight dispatching trying to offer all the same services, then you're going to get looked over. A lot of people say this industry is oversaturated, right? But it's never possible for any industry to ever be oversaturated. The reason why is you can always offer additional value. So when I got into this game, basically what I started doing is I started offering all type of additional services. I started getting oversized load permits, right? I started finding drivers. If the owner operator had a second or third truck, I started finding drivers for that second or third truck. So I took it beyond just dispatching loads, but I took it to any value that I can give that owner operator. And by marketing that value, that's what attract the owner operator. So I would say before you guys get started in this business, you have to have a UVP. So what I would do is just like I do with any business. My best advice that I can give to you guys is take a couple of days, take 2 or 3 days or entire week. And what you want to do, you want to come up with a UVP. You just want to think about what you can implement into your company that would set your business apart from other people's businesses, right? So you literally want to have a list and start writing all these things down that can separate your business, right? So by you thinking of these ideas, this is going to give you future plans, what to put on your website, what to offer to your clients, right? So the steps in creating a strong UVP, which is a unique value proposition. You have to identify your target audience, right? So for me, when I first started, my target audience was owner operators with their own authority. Their authority had to be active, of course, and that own their own truck, right? They're owner operators and semi-truck drivers too, right? Because semis make the most amount of money out of all the trucks, right? You can make money definitely with hot shots, box trucks too, but semi trucks make the most amount of money. So I want my target audience to be semi truck drivers. So that was my target audience when I first started. Analyze your competitors. So what you want to do, you want to analyze your competitors, look at their marketing, look at their website and see what they're offering, because you want to offer more value than your competitors. So this is why a lot of people never get started. or build a successful freight dispatch business? Because you have to take all these steps, right? But these are the same steps you take in any business, right? So it's just not about wanting to start a business or wanting to make some money. You want to follow the steps. You want to follow the process of making the money, right? So you don't even need to worry about making money. You only need to know the process, which if you need to learn more, you can go to my website, AntoineWest.biz, or check out more of my free YouTube videos here. But you want to learn the process and then execute the process. You want to actually do the steps so you can start making money, right? So back to it. Define your core strengths. So you want to define your core strengths as a person, right? You want to define your core strengths as a person and as a business, right? If you're a truck driver yourself, if you came from a company driver background, then you have a unique skill set that you can offer to the owner operators as a dispatcher that other dispatchers can't, right? I have a lot of students that come from a finance background or who are CPA, certified public accountants, right? Or bookkeepers, right? So if those are some of your strengths, you want to focus on those and define those core strengths, because you want to make sure you say those core strengths in your marketing campaigns, because that's going to set you, make you different than your competition. Focus on the benefits. Focus on the benefits customers will have from using your dispatch service. So what benefits are owner operators going to realize from you going with your dispatch service over another person's, basically, right? Craft a compelling message. So you want a compelling message, or you can call this a one-liner. You want a compelling message or a one-liner before you even try or attempt to get your first client. All these things you want to set up here before you start marketing, right? So this is your UVP. You want to have a unique value proposition for your company before you, this is what you want to market, right? That's a better way of putting it, right? You get people that's marketing, but what are they marketing? They're marketing a company, a freight dispatch company, right? But they're not marketing a UVP, right? So any business that you have, the thing that you are marketing is the unique value proposition, right? So I'm going to tell you right now, most people coming into this business don't even have a UVP, and then they're trying to market, and like, what are they trying to market, right? So you are marketing the unique value proposition. You are marketing what makes your company different than the rest of the market, right? Because that's what's going to attract owner operators to your business, right? And you have to actually market that. So that craft a compelling message, that's going to be like a one-liner, a statement that's simple, fast, straight to the point, that basically summarizes what your company is about, that tells your customers what your UVP is, right? So one UVP, unique value proposition, that I recommend is offering guarantees, offering to guarantee a profit increase by at least 10% or revenue increase by at least 10%, right? So this is going more into business with freight dispatching, right? This is you showing your customer more concern, more interest for their business if you want to guarantee that to increase their revenue by at least 10%, right? So that's would be a UVP. That's separating your business apart from the rest of the competition, because you can look, even if I were you guys, you're starting this freight dispatch business, right? So you have to look at your competitors, right? And you'll see no one is offering a UVP of an increase in revenue, right? Of course, what do owner operators want more than anything, right? They don't necessarily want an increase in rates more than anything. They want an increase in revenue into their company, right? That's what they want more than anything. So let's talk about that, right? So if I'm just starting a business, a freight dispatch business, I'm just talking about increasing owner operators revenue, because that's my customer, that's my target audience, and I know that's what they want more than anything. So I'm going to try to even craft a UVP, create a unique value proposition around increasing revenue in a trucking business, right? Emphasize your reliability and trustworthiness. So if I'm new to do that, I know that's a question a lot of new people would have, to emphasize my reliability. If I'm new, what I would do is I would grow what's called social proof, right? I would advertise my services, and I would talk about how I'm going to increase profit, right? So, and then it's going to take a while with trustworthiness. So basically, as I actually did this in trucking businesses, I would then basically get testimonials from them, right? And then once you start throwing a few testimonials up on your website, that's going to get you a lot more business. And if you watch any of my other videos, you are wanting to advertise your business and market your UVP, and what you want to do is get owner operators back over to your website, right? So it's all about getting owner operators back over to your website. So first, before you start any business, you want to make sure you have a UVP, right? So these are just a couple of UVPs, guarantees, which I mentioned. Fleet management, that's something I did when I first started my business. So what I would do is I would manage a person's trucking business. I would do everything, basically anything that I could do on the admin side as a freight dispatcher, I did. If the owner operator had a second or third truck and had drivers in those trucks, I pretty much managed those drivers for the owner operator. So anything and everything I could take off the hands of an owner operator, I did. Third party services. You can offer the CPA services. You can network with CPAs and bookkeepers. And I would just think of anyone who needed any services that an owner operator could need, right? I would reach out to those people and network with them, right? Grow business relationships and offer those services through the third parties. Cost optimization, right? You want to increase, this goes back to guarantees, but you want to come up with a UVP where you try to decrease expenses. So you want to decrease fuel expenses. A lot of dispatchers look on the map and they look at different fuel stops, and you can see where the cheapest fuel prices are. And then you alert your owner operators. You have access to their ELD, their electronic logging device, and then you alert them to where fuel prices are the cheapest at, right? So that's another way you can affect the profit of the trucking business, right? So these are just a couple UVPs, unique value propositions, right? Next up, we got marketing. So after you got your UVP together, after you got your unique value proposition, you want to market your business, right? And when you're marketing your business, you use what's called touch points. Touch points are all the ways you can come in contact with your potential client, with your potential owner operators, right? So a lot of people have the question of where do you find owner operators? But when you're marketing, what you need to do, you need to think of all the ways you can come in contact with a potential owner operator, and you need to basically execute on all those different ways. So if it's going through the truck stop, if it's calling the FMCSA website, numbers, if it's cold calling, numbers off the FMCSA website, if it's growing a Facebook business page, all these things you need to do, right? If it's posting on Indeed.com, right? But what you guys got to remember is you can market all day long. You can cold call all day long, but it's important the offering you have what you're offering your clients, right? So you got to realize with cold calling, new owner operators get hundreds of cold calls a day, right? Hundreds of the same cold calls a day, right? But what you want to do is you want to craft an irresistible offer. You want to be able to offer something to owner operators when you're marketing on Facebook, right? If you're making videos on Facebook, if you're going to truck stops, you want to offer owner operators something they've never heard of before, right? I can get you the highest paying loads. They heard of that 100 times, right? At first, that worked, right? Because owner operators hadn't heard of that very much. When dispatching first came along, when it was just about booking loads, that was fine, right? Because that sounded like a good offer. But now that just sounds like an overused offer. So what it is, why people can't attract clients is because owner operators, potential clients are tired of overused offers, basically, right? That would happen with any business once the offer is overused so much. So you want an irresistible offer. So when you're cold calling, so this is what will happen for most people. If you're cold calling at first, just to be honest, you're probably going to suck, right? Like I did. But as you cold call more, as you work on your offer more, as you think of different things to say on the cold calls, as you tell them that you offer guarantees on profit, right? You can offer an owner operator, I'm going to guarantee you $9,000 in profit, right? Or, if they're kind of newer, this is their first week of getting out, it might be lower, right? If they're still learning the ropes too, but you can offer them a guarantee on profit, right? It don't even have to be that high, right? You can offer them a guarantee of $6,000. It might be some of these new owner operators that's getting out there in their first week, they make $3,000, right? Second week, they make $2,500 or $4,000, right? But think about it. If you call them and you say, I'm going to dispatch you and guarantee you $6,000 in revenue for the week, right? That's going to lock them in. That's more of an irresistible offer, right? But just saying I'm going to offer you high paying loads, that's not saying a lot. That offer doesn't sound too concrete. So you want to think of a guarantee, or basically what I mean is the offer when you're at the truck stops, when you're marketing your offer, your UVP, your unique value proposition. That means a lot, right? What you could do, just starting out a freight dispatch company, you could have the different trucks types that you dispatch for, and you could put a guarantee next to each one that you guarantee this amount of money every week for each one of these trucks types, right? And then think about it. If you're marketing like that, that's an idea maybe I would put on a flyer, right? Because if I'm marketing that way, I'm attracting my clients to me. Owner operators that's not making that amount in their truck, if they see that I guarantee that amount in my dispatch services, that's going to attract them, right? That's going to lead them to me. If I say I'll guarantee you at least $8,000 a week, and there's owner operators out there making $5,000 or $6,000 a week, right? And they see that I guarantee at least $8,000 a week, they're going to come to me. They're going to be reaching out to me, right? But then you can lead them further into this, like on video, on your post, or over a cold call. Say, but before we enact that guarantee, I want to take some time out with you, schedule a Zoom call so we can take a look at your rate confirmation history, because you want to verify, right? You just don't want to take their word for it. So you want to verify their the history of their weekly profit, right? Their weekly revenue, right? So, and then when you get them on a Zoom, that's taking time out to learn more about their business, right? And their revenue. So you're showing more concern for their business, right? So that's how I would do it. I would possibly offer a guarantee. If I'm new, maybe that guarantee would be low at first. And then as my skills improve, I would raise the amount of money that I'm going to guarantee each week, because as I raise that amount of money, more owner operators are going to reach out to me. But I don't want to offer such a high guarantee at first and have so many owner operators reach out and sign up, and then I fail on so many guarantees, right? So I'm going to kind of judge the amount that I'm offering on those guarantees by my own experience, right? But that's the kind of that's the type of offerings you want to market, the type of UVPs, right? So as I said, any business that I start, the whole reason I get into a business is because I have a UVP, right? Because I've seen a business and then I have some idea in mind of how I can improve that business. So even freight dispatching, I wouldn't come into this business just saying that you want to make some money or you want to start a freight dispatch business. I would think more about a unique value proposition, right? Something unique about an FMP, a fundamental marketplace problem. I would see a fundamental marketplace problem within trucking, and then that's why I would start my freight dispatch business, offer all the other same regular dispatching services that other dispatchers are offering, and then that unique value proposition, right? So you want to do that. You want to offer that unique value proposition, and that's the reason you're getting into business. That's the reason that's what you're marketing, is that UVP. I got a person saying rates. Sometimes I happen to look in the comments. I have a person saying rates are trash. Good luck. So, right. So basically a lot of this stuff, and I'll just say this is my honest knowledge, right? My freight dispatching business didn't even become successful till I realized it doesn't matter what rates are as a freight dispatcher. Is it some like saying out there that's saying if rates are trash, you're going to fail as a freight dispatcher? It's not amount the rates have to be at for you to be successful as a freight dispatcher, right? The whole reason, okay, business period. So this is the reason people, to my knowledge, people fail at freight dispatching, because we're not thinking business like. You got to think more about being a business person than a freight dispatcher, right? So this is what's funny about rates are trash, is that freight dispatch, you want to, as a business person, you want to find businesses that survive no matter what the industry is doing, right? And it took me a little while, a couple of weeks, but I realized that with freight dispatching, if rates are up or rates are down, check this out. As an owner operators, as a trucking business, rates can be extremely high, and I guarantee you there will be a lot of trucking businesses failing, right? Rates can be low, and a lot of owner operators are going to be succeeding, and a lot of them are going to be failing, right? So it really don't matter. That's like if I hear like rates are trash, that's saying like the economy is trash. Don't start any business right now, right? And you got to remember each industry, the trucking industry, the computer industry, the technology industry, I mean. So all these basically all these industries make up the economy, right? So basically, if the U.S. economy is trash, you still got to start a business. And really, to think about it, okay, let's go back to like economics, right? I know you guys have all heard like some of the best times to start a business is when the economy isn't doing good, right? That's the same thing with dispatching. Now, you think about it, some of the best time to start a dispatching business would be when the trucking industry isn't as doing as good, because there's more problems within the trucking industry. And that's when you come up with the UVP, right? That's when you come up with a unique idea to add more value into the industry, to give more value to your customers. And that's how you're going to increase their profit, right? As a business owner, you don't get into an industry because everything is perfect. You get into an industry because of the problems, right? Just like the person said, rates are trash. That person might believe rates are low right now. But like I said earlier during this live, you want to think of every additional way to add more revenue to a trucking company, right? Right? I see Muhammad saying, why are rates low, right? Even thinking about that, you're going to cause your dispatching business to fail because you can't control that, right? Rates, that's just how trucking is. That's just like the economy. Rates are going to go up and down. You know, it has cycles. That's why rates are like that, right? Right? So for me, even when rates are low, what I do is I come up. So when rates are low, I don't think about why rates are low, or I don't think about rates being low. I think about, well, how can I add more value to my potential customer, right? Because adding more value and marketing that value is going to bring me in more customers. Then as a dispatcher, I make a percentage. I have a very low overhead. This is why dispatchers can make money no matter how the trucking industry is doing, right? And that's not a bad thing. That's just how our business, that's this business model, right? Right? I'm not like afraid to say that dispatchers can make money. It don't even matter how the trucking industry is doing. Dispatchers can still make money because that's just the business model of dispatching, right? So that's why I love this. If all else went wrong, I would be a freight dispatcher, right? Right. So even if rates are low, that really don't have anything to do with a freight dispatcher. You might have some trucking businesses going out of business when rates are low, but of course that's not your fault. As a freight dispatcher, you're probably helping their business stay in business longer, right? You should be, right? Of course, you can't control the fuel prices, right? You can't control all these things as a freight dispatcher, and that's not really your worry. Your worry is just to give the most value to your potential customer at all times, right? So I'm saying the market can go however, but as long as you think about how can I give the most value to my potential customer as possible, you're going to make the most amount of money, right? And I'm telling you, as I always say, a lot of times in business, why people don't succeed, we waste too much time thinking about the wrong things. As I said in my last live, revenue generating ideas. If it don't make you money, don't think about it and don't talk about it. If I believe something is trash, I'm not even going to think about it or talk about it. I'm going to think about the thing that I think can make me money. And I'm going to think and talk about that thing, right? Because if I talk about something being trash or something being low, like that's not doing me any good, right? You really got to use your thoughts. Like for success, you always got to be thinking successful thoughts. You think the millionaire or the billionaire or the successful person is sitting around thinking, oh, this is trash, this is low, this isn't going good. No, because you will never be successful. If you notice, successful people don't even say those things because they're not thinking about those things, because it's not helping their business to be any more successful. Yeah, I got you, Muhammad. No problem. I just wanted to comment on that with rates, being trash, because one thing I think dispatchers can hear that, and then that can make you become not as motivated about your business. I know that happens all the time. So that's why I say in business too, you cannot think about what other people are saying, because it's gonna make the money run away from you, right? Yeah, right. You got to have a positive mindset, right? That's everything. You notice people with negative mindsets don't start successful businesses, right? It's the person, the positive people that because, and the reason why you can't start a successful business with a negative mindset is because ideas are not going to come to you. If you're thinking negative and you're looking down on everything, or you thinking why things are trash, you are not going to think of ideas, and businesses are built on ideas. Ideas make money. So that's why negative people don't make money, right? And they think they don't make money because the outside world, but if they start being more positive with their thinking, their outside world will go differently. That's a big part of business mindset. I will start talking about more and more, because honestly, that's the most important part of business is mindset, right? Without the right mindset, without the right thoughts, your business will not be successful. So as we were talking about unique value proposition, you must have a unique value proposition. The market can be trash, but with a unique value proposition, with something unique to offer to your owner operators or to your customers in any business, even in a bad market, that unique idea is going to attract people to your business, and it's going to be a quote unquote bad market, but people in other businesses aren't going to be making any money. And this happens in any industry. We should all know that in any industry, just with freight dispatching, owner operators, wherever you look, some people are making money, some people aren't, right? And that's just because maybe some people have a unique value proposition and some don't. Some are fitting in with the market and some are standing out. So in this video, I was talking about my two-step process to attract owner operators. The first is have a UVP, have a unique value proposition, something that makes your business unique and stands out from the market, right? And number two is market your business, right? Have a marketing plan, a marketing strategy, right? You have to have a target market analysis. You have to analyze your target market. Your target market are your owner operators, right? So those are your customers. That's who you're going to target, right? So you're going to target your potential owner operators in your marketing efforts. And you're going to target them with a unique value proposition, UVP, right? You're going to have a multi-channel approach. This is when your touch points come in. This is when being on Facebook, going to truck stops, cold calling. This is when getting those touch points, all the possible ways that you can touch your potential client, right? Because what happens a lot of times why people don't get clients in this business, because people think they can talk to a person one time, right? They need multiple touch points, right? Emails, they need all this. They need to keep seeing your business, keep seeing your brand, right? This goes into consistent branding. Well, it really goes in consistent strategy, but consistent branding, your logo, your website, colors, the language you use, it all needs to be the same. It needs to match. You need to have a content strategy, right? So you need to have a strategy on the content that you're going to release on your social media platforms, put on your flyers, right? About how you convey your unique value proposition. Also, it gives you data-driven decision making, right? So by having a marketing plan, if you're not, so for me, right, when I wasn't getting enough clients in my business, I had data-driven decision making, right? Because I knew how many cold calls I was making per day. I knew how many social media posts I was making, right? So basically, if I wanted more clients, I can look at my data and see how many people I was reaching per day. And if I wanted more, I 2 times that, right? Because it's a numbers game, right? It's a funnel. As I explained to you guys earlier, you can go back and look at some of my more earlier lives and check out my videos about funnels. And you have the customer relationship management, right? You want to be able to grow relationships with your customers. Everyone's not going to sign up with your business on that first appearance. So that's why you have to keep up. That's why you have to have a marketing plan. So you're always marketing, right? That's where a lot of people fail in this business, because they market a little bit, they stop. They market a little bit, they start to doubt themselves. They can't get any customers, right? But the more you market, the better you're going to get. You can't find, as I said earlier, you don't find owner operators. What you really want to do is you want to become a better marketer, a better salesman, right? That's what you really want to do. So the whole problem with freight dispatching, why people are having sometimes such a hard problem starting these businesses, is because of the marketing and sales, right? It's probably about 85% marketing and sales. So if you're trying to start at one of these businesses, I would focus most of my attention on marketing and sales. I would get a UVP, a unique value proposition. If it took me a week, I would focus a week's time and just think about something unique about my business. And then I would have a marketing plan to get that UVP out to as many people as possible, right? So I'm about to wrap up the live for tonight. That's about all I have. Make sure you guys go to my website. I still got that 25% off sale going on at AntoineWest.biz. But I thank you guys. I thank you guys for all my students who recently signed up with me. I thank you. I thank you guys for coming out to this live. But I wanted to drop that quick information about my 2-step program on attracting owner operators. I'll catch you guys next.